And meanwhile, you got Democrats who are taking advantage of this situation to say that the federal government should bail them out. So California, as they call for a full lockdown, see, this is one of the issues here, is that states are now looking to the federal government to bail them out. So as the lockdowns continue in states like New York and in California, they're looking increasingly to the federal government to bail them out. California has now borrowed from the federal government to make their unemployment payments. Well, why should the federal government fill in California's holes when it comes to their own unemployment system? Truly, it's because California is incredibly irresponsible with its own spending. You know how I can tell this? Here's what the Wall Street Journal reports. About 3.7 million people have filed unemployment claims in California since mid-March. California had about $1.9 billion in its unemployment trust fund in mid-April, down from $3.1 billion at the end of February, the month before the coronavirus upended the U.S. economy. California serves as an early sign of the potential magnitude of federal assistance that could be required if states are to continue paying out jobless benefits. It is one of more than 20 states and jurisdictions that entered the current economic crisis without enough money in their unemployment trust funds to pay benefits through a year-long recession, according to the Labor Department data. By that measure, California was prepared to make unemployment payments for just over 2 months in the event of a recession. 2 months. So California was deeply irresponsible, decided to blow all of its money on crap union contracts with various public sector unions, and they didn't have money to pay unemployment insurance. And now it's up to people in other states to pay for all of that. New York did the same thing. They blew out their budget, and now they don't have enough money to pay for the stuff they should have had the money to pay for. And now they're turning to the federal government for the bailout. And if they get those bailouts, you know what that incentivizes? It incentivizes governors to spend oodles of money they never have because they know that at the end, it's too big to fail. California is too big to fail. New York is too big to fail. Now, this has led demagogues like Andrew Cuomo to suggest that the federal government needs to step in and fund the states. So here's Cuomo yesterday suggesting that New York needs to be funded. Now, last I checked, New York has is it the second richest citizen body in the United States after California? And they tax them at exorbitant rates, and yet they've run out of money incredibly quickly. Could that have to do with their crap spending habits and the bad union contracts they signed? Maybe it has to do with that. But according to Andrew Cuomo, it's up to the federal government to bail them out, of course, because you can always cast all responsibility at the feet of the federal government.
States need funding. States need funding, A, for testing, tracing. B, states need money because we have a deficit after the coronavirus.
And you have not been given that money.
Stopped everything.
So you don't have enough.
Right.
All right.
Right. If
so
they don't pass a piece of legislation, Chris, well, hold it a second. They were supposed to do it this week. They are going to come back next week. If they don't pass a piece of legislation, game over. Game over.
And then he says, you know what should happen here? Republican states are the ones taking out more money. The Republican states are the ones who are taking out more money from the kitty. Okay, this is what he is saying here is so economically illiterate, it's almost beyond comprehension.
And you look at the Republicans who now say, well, we don't want to help the Democratic states. They are actually the states that have been taking more every year. Virginia, Maryland, Kentucky. Senator Mitch McConnell, he's Kentucky, $37 billion more every year. Alabama, Florida. Everything's about Florida. Why? Because it's a swing state, and we're in an election year. I get it.
Okay, this is not true. Okay, the way that he is calculating this is he is taking the tax dollars paid by New York citizens to the federal government, and then the tax dollars received by New York citizens from the federal government. New York is a disproportionately wealthy state. California is a disproportionately wealthy state. It is not that the federal government takes money from the state of California and then only gives money back to the state of California. What he is talking about is the fact that Kentucky, for example, is a disproportionately poor state. So there are fewer people who are paying in federal income tax to the federal government, and there are more people who are receiving directly. But at no point does the state government actually act as the intermediary there. Basically, you're saying that poor people are receiving more money from the federal government than rich people. That is 100% true. And that rich people are paying more money into the federal government than they are receiving from the federal government. That is also true. Another thing that happens to be true, the people who are disproportionately receiving money from the federal government tend to vote Democrat. Studies show this. Okay, so what the hell is he talking about? What he's attempting to avoid is the reality of the situation, which is the reason that New York is in trouble, despite the richest population in America outside of California. Despite that, New York is in trouble because Andrew Cuomo couldn't get his spending habit under control. Neither could anybody else in New York. And the same thing in California. No, New York is not the victim of a benefits payment scam here. It's ridiculous.